Welcome to K1 Action Star.
The movie starts with Frank Carden, a former defense intelligence officer, welcoming Davies, a new member of his secret mercenary team. They discuss their next mission to kill billionaire Little Hammond Sr., who has recently opposed stem cell research, despite being a key figure in political circles. As the first part of the plan, Frank and his partner kill Hammond's son, Little Hammond Jr., making it look like a hit-and-run accident. Frank then rents an apartment in a small town under a fake name. However, while driving to the city for the next part of the plan, Frank crashes his car. He is taken to the hospital, where nurses find a gun in his pocket and report it to the police. When he wakes up the next day, Frank finds himself handcuffed to a hospital bed. The local police chief tells him that the gun's serial number links him to a wanted criminal. 2 officers are assigned to guard him overnight, with plans for U.S. Marshals to pick him up the next day. With no other choice, Frank steals a phone from a nurse and calls his team. Davies suggests leaving Frank behind and finishing the mission without him, but the team reminds him that they won't get paid without Frank, so they agree to rescue him. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., Ray Keene, a former cop and single father, struggles with his son Chris, who has been suspended from school for smoking weed. Hoping to bond and teach his son better choices, Ray plans a camping trip to Chris's favorite spot in the woods. They head out early the next morning, with Chris leading the way. Elsewhere, U.S. Marshals collect Frank and begin transporting him to D.C. During the ride, they try unsuccessfully to interrogate him. As their car passes through a wooded area, the same forest where Ray and Chris are camping, their road is blocked by a car. When one of the marshals exits to investigate, he is shot dead by Frank's team, who ambush the vehicle and kill everyone except Frank and one marshal. The car tumbles off a bridge into the river below. Frank and the surviving marshal escape the vehicle but begin fighting in the water. Ray, seeing the struggle, rushes to help. He pulls them from the river, and the marshal tells Ray that Frank is a prisoner, handing him a gun, the handcuff keys, and the responsibility of taking Frank into custody before dying. Frank pleads with Ray to let him go, but Ray refuses even after Frank tries to threaten him.
It'd be wise just to let me go. You try to bring me in, you're both gonna die. Of that. My men are following. Ex-military. He'll be here soon. Listen to me. Hey, stay back. Stay back, will you? Let me go.
Ray keeps Chris close while holding Frank at gunpoint and leads him away. Meanwhile, Frank's team cleans up the ambush scene and enters the forest in pursuit. Ray, with Chris's help, adapts their route to avoid capture. They walk all day, and as evening falls, rain begins to pour. The group reaches a steep ledge, where Ray urges them to climb down carefully and take shelter in a cave below. During the descent, Chris slips on the wet rocks, but Frank instinctively catches him, saving him from a fall. Once inside the cave, they spend the night getting to know one another. Chris asks Frank about his profession, and Frank vaguely responds that he removes obstacles to progress, frustrating Ray. Despite their differences, the group shares a peaceful night. Unbeknownst to them, Frank's team camps at the top of the ledge, unable to spot the cave. During the night, Davies receives a call from Gwen Miles, head of the U.S. Marshals. She offers him $500,000 to kill Frank, ensuring the government's involvement is concealed. Davies agrees enthusiastically. Elsewhere, Gwen Miles and FBI liaison officer Rob Jennings arrive in the small town to oversee the search for Frank in person, setting up a command post. The next morning, Davies, now motivated by the bounty, rouses his team early. They spot Frank below as Ray leads him out of the cave. Ray, Chris, and Frank continue their journey, forming an unexpected bond despite their differences. Along the way, they encounter a hiking couple, Sandra and Lachlan, whom Ray persuades to join them for safety. Frank's team follows at a distance, slowed by the need to avoid detection from police helicopters dispatched to expedite the search. At the command post, tension mounts as the hunt for Frank intensifies. Gwen suspects that Frank must be in town to assassinate the president, who will be visiting in the next couple of days. She begins making the necessary security arrangements. Meanwhile, one of Frank's team members flags down a helicopter, with Davy pretending to be injured and lying on the ground next to him. The officers flying the helicopter land to help, thinking it's an emergency. Davy shoots and kills them both.
It's okay, buddy. Just stay calm. I'm gonna help you out. Imperial War, come in, please. Marty, come in. Marty, can you hear me?
And Frank's men take possession of the helicopter. Frank's team uses the helicopter to locate him, the Kay, and the couple crossing a fragile wooden bridge. Just as they cross, Frank gives Chris a gun and instructs him to aim at their pursuers while employing tactics to destroy the bridge and slow them down. Unbeknownst to Frank, his men are closing in on him from above. Spotting the helicopter, Chris, believing it to be the police, hands the gun to Lon and begins calling for help. Frank's men, seeing Lon pointing the gun at Frank, shoot and kill him, causing terror among the group. Frank seizes the opportunity to flee, with Ray close behind. After ensuring Chris and Sandra are safe in the woods, Ray chases Frank, finding him preparing to board the helicopter. Ray manages to shoot the chopper's tail rotor while dodging a hail of bullets. The damaged helicopter crashes a few miles away, but Frank's men survive. At the command post, officials grow restless and pressure Gwen to capture Frank. Gwen relays these orders to Davies. Frank, disappointed by his failed escape, rejoins the group. Sandra, shaken, struggles to cope while Ray tries to keep everyone moving. Chris suggests heading to a cabin used as a camp management office deep in the forest. The group agrees and reaches the cabin by evening. At the cabin, Ray handcuffs Frank to a bedpost and asks Chris to watch him while he comforts Sandra. Later, Chris apologizes to his father for the mess they found themselves in. Ray reassures him, and the father-son bond deepens. Meanwhile, Frank's men track them to the cabin, waiting until nightfall to attack. At night, Frank's men demand Ray let Frank go, threatening to attack if he doesn't. Frank begs Ray, saying he will protect the group.
It's just you, Ray. That was your choice. But it's your son. I want money. Look, you don't have to prove anything. You've already done that. I'm convinced.
Ray unwillingly gives Chris a gun and the keys to Frank's cuffs. As Frank starts to free himself, one of the men bursts into the cabin, causing Chris to accidentally shoot him. A fight breaks out, with Ray and Sandra killing the attackers. In the chaos, Frank takes Chris hostage and runs into the woods. Davies, the only survivor from Frank's team, tries to shoot Frank but misses. Frank tells Chris to stay quiet or he'll kill him. The police arrive and question Ray and Sandra, saying they'll do all they can to find Chris. Gwen, worried Frank might tell Chris important information, tells Davies to kill him too. At home, Ray watches the news about Lyle Hammond Jr.'s funeral. The journalist calls Lyle Hammond Sr. an obstacle to progress, making Ray realize that Frank wants to kill the billionaire. When the police don't listen to his warning, Ray decides to stop Frank on his own. He sneaks into the funeral and confronts Frank, asking where Chris is. Davies, who's also at the funeral, tries to shoot them from a distance. Frank sees Davies and secretly kills him, but the situation becomes too chaotic for Frank to finish his plan. Before leaving, Frank gives Ray the keys to a hotel room where Chris is locked up. Ray, with help from the police, saves Chris. Later, Frank finds Gwen and threatens her, saying if anything happens to the Kay, he'll come for her, scaring her. Afterward, Ray invites Sandra to a barbecue. While they're together, they hear on the radio that Lyle Hammond Sr. died in a boating accident, but Ray doesn't believe the story.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to this channel for more beautiful recaps like this. Put down your comments below to let me know what you think about the turn of events in this storyline. And also give my video a thumbs up to further motivate me. Share too for others to enjoy. Until my next recap, cheers!